Hi, this is Julie Harland, and I'm your Math Gal. Please visit my website at yourmathgal.com, where you could search for any of my videos organized by topic. Alright, on this video we're going to add and subtract some mixed numbers that have unlike denominators, and we're also dealing with negative numbers, so you have to be pretty good at your fractions by now and working with positive and negative numbers. Here's our first problem. So we have negative 3 1/4 plus 2 5/6. So I have mixed numbers, and I also have unlike denominators. So there are two different ways to deal with this. You can get a common denominator first, or what you could do is change these to improper fractions and get a common denominator second. I think it's easier to get a common denominator first. Alright, so let's do that. What's the least common denominator between 4 and 6? Well, lots of ways to figure it out. Hopefully you got 12. Okay, this is one way I figure out to be 12. So I need to rewrite 1/4 in terms of 12s, and I have to write the 5/6 in terms of 12s. So what I'm going to do is move this over a little bit. Let's see. I guess plus 2 and 5/6. I guess I'll do it like this. Plus 2 and 5/6. I'm going to just leave myself some space right here to deal with this fraction, each of these fractions. So I need to have 12s in the denominator, right? So for this first fraction, 1/4, how do I change the 1/4 to 12s? I need to multiply the denominator by 3, so the numerator also is going to be 3. And for 5/6, I need to multiply the denominator by 2, so numerator by 2, so that I'm going to, instead of think of it as 3 1/4, it's negative 3 3/12, and this is going to be 2 10/12. Now notice I'm just multiplying the fraction by that, not the 2. Okay, it's a little strange the way it looks, but hopefully you understand what I was doing. Okay, now I'm adding a negative number and a positive number. So that means I have to take their difference and take the sign of the larger absolute value, which is right here, negative. There's more negatives. So my answer, I know, is going to be negative. And what do? We have to then subtract these numbers. So I've got to take 3 3/12 minus 2 10/12. That was supposed to be 12. Little problem here because I've got 3 minus 10 if I subtracted the numerator. So I would have to borrow if I wanted to keep this with mixed numbers. Let's go ahead and do that. If I borrow, right, that means that becomes 1 3/12. So basically the numerator, I get to add 12 to it. So you might show this differently, but that's 15/12 minus 10/12. So that's going to be 10/12. Okay, keep in mind, 3 is the same as 2 plus 1, and 1 can be written as 12/12, so that's why this new numerator, 3 plus 12, is going to be 15. So my answer should be negative 5/12. Now, a lot of people have trouble doing it with the mixed numbers. So the other way to do it is to write everything as improper fractions. So instead, let's take what we have here and write each of these as improper fractions. So remember, this minus sign just goes in front, and you're really just changing 3 3/12 to an improper fraction. So it's still going to be 12. And I have 12 times 3 is 36, plus 3 is 39, plus, right, second fraction. 12 times 2 is 24, plus 10 is 34. And now I'm adding with the same denominator. So when I add the two numerators, notice you're going to get negative 39 plus 34. That's negative 5/12. So you would still get negative 5/12. Right, so our answer is negative 5/12. And I think most people kind of like doing it this way, unless they're really huge numbers, like if it was 109 and, 3/17. Sometimes that's kind of tricky, putting them into improper fractions. All right, here's our second problem. Again, we need to get a common denominator. We also might note we're doing a subtraction here, but I have a negative number, so I could begin, if I want, by writing that as negative 8.5 plus negative 4 2/9. That's up to you. And I need to get a common denominator. Between 2 and 9 is going to be 18. So that will be negative 8, and I'm going to have to multiply this numerator by 9 over 9, so that'll be 9/18. Okay. I have to do the same thing with 2/9. If it helps you to see what I'm doing here, I'm doing 1/2 by 9 over 9. That's how I got the 9/18. And then the 2/9, I'm going to multiply by 2 over 2 to get a denominator of 18. So that's where this 4/18 comes from. So now I'm adding two negative numbers. Okay, this one's going to be a little bit easier to just keep with my whole as mixed numbers, because I'm adding two negatives, so I just add the whole number parts and add the fractional parts. So if you want to do that, writing it down like this, you want to think of it as adding down. Negative 8 and negative 4 add up to negative 12, and then I've got, actually, I'm not going to write the negative signs. That makes it more confusing. You're just adding, the answer is going to be negative, so we're adding the two whole number parts, the 8 and 9/18 and the 4 and 4/18. That's going to be 13/18. So my answer is negative 12 and 13/18. I'm sure many of you could just add right here. You don't have to go to the side. So in this case, I think it was easier leaving it in terms of mixed numbers, but you could have taken and written 8 and 9/18 as an improper fraction, taken the 4 and 4/18, right, it is an improper fraction, and done the entire problem, and then when you change it back to a mixed number, you should also get negative 12 and 13/18. All right, here's our last problem. We have negative 5 and 5/12 minus negative 1 and 4/9. So first thing I'm going to do is say, oh, minus a negative, that's going to be plus a positive. So let's do that first. Now I need to get a common denominator for 12 and 9. And I'm going to go over here. 3 goes into both of those. So the common denominator is going to be 36. So I know I'm going to write this first one with a denominator of 36, and this is now a plus sign. I'm going to write the second one with a denominator of 36. So we want to write 5/12 with a denominator of 36, and I want to write the 4/9 as a denominator of 36. So for the first one, multiply by 3 over 3, 15 will be your new numerator. But the second one, 4 over 4, 16 will be your new numerator. So 5/12, I said, was 15/36. So that's what goes up here. And 4/9, we got 16/36. All right, so now I'm doing negative 5 and 15/36 plus 1 and 16/36. I'm adding a negative and a positive number. So that means I have to take their difference and take the sign of the larger. So I know my answer is going to be negative because this is the bigger one. The negative 5 is bigger than the 1. So my answer I know will be negative. And I now have to subtract. So the next step is to go back and remember how to do this. How do you do 5 and 15/36 minus the 1 and 16/36? Well, you can't do 15 minus 16, so again, you're going to have to borrow. So if you want to keep it as mixed numbers, if you borrow from that, you're going to get, this will be a 4, right? And then you have 1 and 15/36, which basically means you get to add a 36 to that numerator, which is a 51/36 minus 1 and 16/36. So then we can subtract. And let's see, what's 15 minus 16? 35, I hope. 35, 36. So now I go back over here to my problem, and you know that the answer is going to be negative, so it's negative 3 and 35, 36. Now you also could have changed each of these to improper fractions, right? So the other way to do this, to subtract the 5 and 1536 minus the 1 and 1636, is you would have to multiply 36 times 5. Okay, I have a video showing you an easy way to multiply by 5. That's 180 plus 15. It's 195.36. And I also have to multiply 36 times 1. 36 plus 16 is 52. And when I subtract, I think that is 143. I hope. 143.36. Okay, that's actually subtracting, but again, the answer is going to have a negative sign in front of it, right? So this is just like your side work, just like over here we did our side work. So the question is that the same thing? Okay, well, let's just check it out if it's the same thing. What's 36 times 3? It's 108, and you add 35, which is 143. So the new numerator would be, that's the same thing as 143.36. So two ways of getting the answer. Ah, boy, lots of arithmetic here. But our final answer could either be written like this or negative 143.36. Please visit my website at yourmathgal.com, where you can view all of my videos, which are organized by topic.